Thanks to everyone for joining our virtual room today. We do appreciate it. My name is Kyle Kuhn with Benchmark. I'm the Texas District Manager, and we have a complete team of Benchmark members here to answer your questions. First, we have Dr. Vicki Gibson. She is the author of Ready to Advance, and we're pleased to have her with us. We also have Benchmark Education's editorial team, who is here, and Shauna Williams and Carmen Garrett, who are part of the Texas consultant team. And we're going to begin with a brief overview of Ready to Advance. Shauna is going to take us through that. And then, of course, we will have time for your questions. So let me hand it over to Shauna.
Great. So thank you, Kyle, and welcome everyone to this brand new pre-K program that is very comprehensive, and it meets all of the pre-K guidelines. It's in English and in Spanish. The Ready to Advance is our English component, Listo y Adelante is our Spanish component, and it's a parallel program. So I'm going to just ask all of you to mute for me if you would, please. That would be great because I think they are recording it. So let me introduce you to our author in a little bit more depth. She actually wrote the program, and she actually is one who is an expert in early learning, a national speaker, and the author of several professional books. But she also is currently a practitioner at Texas A&M University Collaborative Learning Center in College Station, Texas. So we're excited to have her with us today, and you can even see her in the schools. Once you purchase Ready to Advance and Listos Adelante, we invite you to visit the school, observe, ask Dr. Gibson questions. So we're excited to introduce you to a solution that provides children with high quality learning experience. Once again, in English and in Spanish, very cohesive. We're also excited to show you that we are aligned 100% to the pre-K guidelines, including all 10 domains, plus being aligned to the Head Start Outcomes Framework, the Texas Infant and Toddler Guidelines for Children, and then the NAEYC position statements, but also aligned to the Texas Kindergarten TEKS. We're excited to share with you so many resources. And I want you to also know that we are giving you Vicki's Classroom Management book, and it will provide you a way to set up your classroom, to have it organized, and create a place for children to learn. And we do that because we want our children to have an orderly environment, and we want them to have orderly routines. That's the best way that I found that pre-K children learn, any child. We also have our social emotional lab books, and everything we do is interwoven, interconnected. We're focusing on social emotional skills. So teachers will have 10 of these books in English and in Spanish. One like Finding Oliver, where a little boy loses his dog and he needs his friends and the community to help him. And so we really do want that child to feel safe and to feel connected in the community. Also, when you start thinking about songs, Uno, Dos, Tres, Andres songs.
It's time to get in line. I want to be first. I run to the front, but it's someone else's turn.
Now, who can't relate to that? That child needing to be able to have that self-regulation, to know that the teacher is there for them. And that is a true differentiator. Jot that down. Uno, Dos, Tres, Andres songs, written specifically for Benchmark's Ready to Advance and Benchmark Listos y Adelante. Dr. Gibson has created 10 units, 10 themes, and each of those are 3 weeks in length with an extra week of instruction. So it'll take you through summer school if necessary, or 40 weeks of instruction. So we're going to take a peek quickly at Unit 5, Celebrations and Winter. And when you're looking at this specific unit, we have whole group instruction where we deal with emergent literacy, social emotional, math, science, and then we move students to small group where there's a teacher-led table of instruction. And then we also have students go into centers, planned times. But one of my favorites are the different ways that students will then go to the work table and work with a different adult in small group, but the transition activities are there to engage, reinforce, purposeful play. That's what's happening in Ready to Advance. And as we think about the unit, we actually have for every teacher 10 trade books in English and in Spanish, but not only just trade books, but also a lesson plan. So I, as a teacher, know what I'm teaching from these specific lessons. And these are titles you're probably not familiar with because they're new titles written specifically for Benchmark Advanced and Listos y Adelante. So children can see themselves in the text mirrors and see others. So we have them looking out the window, and this is all tied to the theme. So we're excited to share with you not only just trade books, but also big books, read aloud big books, 3 for every unit. You will have your science, social studies book, and a literary big book. So that way you will have the resources you need all tying to that specific theme. You'll also have lap books. How about a lap book for social and emotional time? How about a lap book for math, high frequency words? So we want them to be able to engage in the text. And just like everything, English, Spanish, and also when you look at the lesson itself, we want to focus on a whole group lesson. And in that whole group lesson, we even have a focus for English learners, as well as making sure we have all of the TEKS included in your lesson plan. So you don't have to know what you're going to teach. And we cover lessons for 3-year-olds, and we use that term when we're working with them in the read aloud, concepts of print. We work on vocabulary structure, phonological awareness, counting the syllables of the vocabulary word, connected, interrelated throughout every lesson with even phonemic awareness and phonological awareness, getting students excited, having conversations about the text. And when children are engaged, we also want to make sure that we address the needs with multiple domains in the book. So as you start looking at what we address, those in red are what must be covered by the pre-K guidelines for daily instructional focuses. So in one book, several different domains being covered to truly engage the students. But to get them excited and interacting with the text, we actually have sound symbol cards and word cards and picture cards. But then one of my favorites is the e-pocket chart. Take a look at this e-pocket chart. I use pocket charts in the classroom, so I want to be able to have pictures. They're online, it's digital. I'll have words that I can use. Parents can get engaged in the pocket charts. And these are also in English and in Spanish. But to get students also having fun and jumping up around, we even have letter songs like this one to get them happy and moving and transitioning in between stations.
The letter E. Eh, eh, eh. The tiny little engine was excited to see every which way he could write a letter E.
Now that's just a taste. I wanted you to get more so you can log in and look at the different resources later on. And so we looked at a little whole group. Let's think about what we need for small group instruction. Little books for little hands. So you will have 6 copies of these emergent readers to develop vocabulary for children. And every resource we have is in English and in Spanish in Benchmark Universe. And to get students engaged in social and emotional opportunities, we have props they can put on popsicle sticks to actually retell. We have manipulatives, and we have high frequency word cards. But children also need to be able to have a book in hand, as well as a book that they can take home. So you're going to have consumable books. These are take-home books, one for every unit that covers literacy, math, science, social studies, and even an e-reader so children can hear the book read online.
What do you see? I see balloons.
You can see the words being highlighted as they're being read to the children, as well as having strong small group activities for our 3-year-olds to build foundations, our 4-year-olds to teach concepts and skills, and for our 5-year-olds to extend learning. But we don't label them 3, 4, 5. You're the teacher, you know what the children need. So we give you 3 different types of lessons, including one of my other favorites, our strong writing workbook that teacher will use to guide students. So the teacher has the emergent writing guide, but the students do the work using the 5 pre-writing strokes, like up and around, touch, pull down, to use and learn every letter, every numeral, and every shape. And as teachers, we also want students to go into centers. So you have 6 different center opportunities per week, like science or math or art centers. But the last piece I want to reference is assessment. We want to make sure that you know how your children are doing. So we have screeners. So depending on the age of the students, you could print out the screener, Then while you have them in small group, see how they're doing as an observational assessment for every single unit to make sure that you're reaching the child and also that adult in the home, with take-home calendars and take-home books, as well as a homeschool connection book for teachers. But what pulls it together are people like me, professional development people, educational consultants, our author, Dr. Vicki Gibson, being able to provide support in person, being able to come out with you, work with teachers, also online and working with remote learning. We do that as well. So we can provide 24-hour digital support in an environment that's purposeful, planned with resources. And
Hey, Sean, I do want to make sure we have enough time for Q&A. So if you're close to your last slide, let's see if we can open it up for some questions in the last 10 minutes or so.
Okay, great. You are right where I need to be, because here's the list of where our contact people are for the sales executives. But I want to just thank you, and please go to our website so that you can actually look at benchmark readytoadvance.com/Texas. And let me open it up to questions as Josh takes over and leads you to the website. So let me see if there's anything in the chat. Oh, Leslie, open it up for questions. That's what I see so far. Please feel free to unmute and we can have a conversation, or let's hear some of your questions.
Hello, my name is Janine Samer and I'm with Jubilee Academies. And my question is, the big books, are they also digital?
Yes, ma'am. Everything that you can touch is online in Benchmark Universe. Every single resource, teachers' resource systems, the student books, all of the resources are there. Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Kathy Harmon and I'm with Lake Worth ISD. I was just wanting to know about the 100% in alignment. I know that on the website, it states that it is not 100% across the board. Do you know the difference in what's posted?
Yes. And so when you think about we're being aligned to the 10 domains, so that is their 100% alignment. But Vicki, I'm going to ask you to come in and elaborate a little bit more on that, please.
Thank you. I'd love to. This is Vicki Gibson. I'm the author. When I wrote this program, I took all of the standards and I purposefully set out a matrix along with a very famous person, Dr. Karen Hess, who's in charge of learning progression research in this country, and everything is aligned. However, there's multiple components, and when something is reviewed, possibly they didn't see part of it. For instance, our classroom management support is a separate guide in our program so that we could not have you reading the same thing over and over again in the teacher resource system or the teacher edition. The same is true with any of we have a separate guide in the program for how you teach writing, how you use assessments. And so if they didn't look at all of those guides, they've missed material. So I would encourage you to look at the responses from the publisher back to the reviewers, and they explain possibly how some of the miscommunication occurred.
Thank you, Vicki.
You're welcome.
You.
Yes, there was another question. Okay, I'm looking at one online about the take-home books. And just so you know, they come for the life of the adoption. Every child will get one, and there are 10 of those for every unit. And then we do have take-home books that are in a PDF format that are sent home at the beginning of every unit. So children get 2 of these books that are take-home in addition to this consumable book that they will actually have.
And I'd like to add, this is Vicki again, the consumable book, every page, it gives an opportunity for the child to dialogue what they've done at school with their parent and family at home. So it's a great homeschool connection review piece at the end of a unit.
Professional learning opportunities. Great. So several opportunities for professional learning. My favorite, classroom management. As a teacher, I wish I'd had this. It's the best thing ever. It helps children self-regulate so I can understand that I want you to behave in a certain way so you could learn. That's a wonderful resource we have for professional learning. And you're also looking at Vicki. That's one of the best resources that we have. Come to her school, watch her teach the children, but then also know that we're here as consultants. I have my manager on, Carmen. And so what Carmen does is say, we have a team of consultants. Shauna, I need you to go out when it's safe to work with the teachers. We also have been doing virtual professional development online. And then we even have distance learning activities. So if I'm an adult in the home and I want to work with my child, I have those type of activities as well.
We also have probably over 100 videos that we have filmed in actual classrooms. This is Vicki again, that will be available for you to look at a video library of teaching lessons, introducing a word, whatever the skill may be.
Right. And I just want to add on to the PD because we really feel like the PD professional development is really very important to any of the products that we have. And we would work with the district based on their needs and create a plan that is reflective of your needs as we move forward.
Thank you. And Ms. Reyes, your question about the scope and sequence, that's one of my favorites, porque yo estaba en una maestría bilingüe y cuando estaba enseñando en español, no es lo mismo en inglés. It's very different in Spanish. So for Spanish, we teach the vowels, las vocales primero, y después la M, la P, so we can make words like mama, papa. In English, we start with those specific sounds that a student will use most often. Susan, you want to talk a little bit about our scope and sequence, please, in English?
Right. Well, in English, we're going to always move from simple to complex. So as we begin with even our phonological awareness, we're going to begin with looking at the whole words, looking at the parts of the words, moving to syllables, and we will make that progression across as we go across the year. As we look at sounds, what letters do we actually teach first? We do that based on those continuous sounds, those easier sounds to begin with, and that's how we make that connection then back to phonemic awareness.
And I also saw in another earlier session, there was a question about authentic text and cultural relevance. So what we've done is we've taken text from authentic Spanish-speaking authors from different countries, and it's not translated, it's not transadaptational, it is text that has been written for benchmark, but all around the themes and the different units that we have. Okay. I see another question about the distance learning activities. So yes, in March, when the pandemic hit, our team started creating these lessons and we put those out on our Facebook pages for teachers to use. And this year they were so successful that teachers said, let's buy your program. We're going to put it online in Benchmark Universe as distance learning activities for parents. So every day there's an activity that a child could do, and that way that adult in the home can be involved in these activities. And they're only 15 to 20-minute activities so that adult is not overwhelmed. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you also have digital resources available in Spanish?
Yes, ma'am. It's an equitable program. Everything you have in English is also in Spanish, from the lap books to the big books to the e-pocket chart, every single resource. Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
There's a question about CLI and how it aligns to benchmark.
Okay. So tell me a little bit more about your CLI circle, or unless Vicki, you want to go ahead and respond to that.
Are you asking about, this is Vicki, are you asking me about the alignment? To the
CLI circle.
Oh, to the CLI circle. Actually, it's very, very, very much aligned with the CLI circle and most assessments, because all of us are aligned to the same pre-K standards and guidelines and the infant and toddler guidelines for 36-month-olds if you have 3-year-olds in your program. So we all operate from the same base information that's required by the state.
Thank you.
And
So
I hate to
Leslie, how are we
interrupt this, but we are at our 20-minute mark for block 1. So you guys are more than welcome to stay for block 2 if you still have questions. And we also have a 5-minute transition period. So feel free to linger back for a few minutes before you jump to your next room. But the next block will pick up at 2:25. So you can use those links to transition to your next room or hang out here for 20 minutes longer.
Thank you.
And Shauna, I don't know if you want me to show the site that you have up there, just to walk people through as they're transitioning. The only problem is I can't share my screen because it says I can't share it while you're sharing.
Okay, let me stop sharing.
Perfect. So before you go, I just wanted to share the website, which is benchmarkrta.com/Texas. And this site, you can read more about the program with a brochure. You can dive into our packaging options, all the various resources that are available. If you have more questions about phonological awareness, math, the professional development support, that is all here. And then if you have any additional questions too, you can find your rep on the contact page and locate your region. And right here, it's as simple as just clicking on email, and that will send an email to your rep. Also, the phone number is there if you would prefer to call. And I will drop this link into the chat.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our second virtual room. We do appreciate you stopping by. My name is Kyle Kuhn with Benchmark. I'm the Texas manager. And with us today, we have Dr. Vicki Gibson. She is the author of Ready to Advance, our Texas pre-K program. And we also have Benchmark's editorial team, as well as Shauna Williams and Carmen Garrett from our professional development team. First, we're going to do a brief overview of Ready to Advance, and then we will have time to answer all of your questions. So let me hand it over to Shauna Williams.
Okay, so thank you so much, Kyle. I'm excited to be here and share with you our brand new pre-K program in English and in Spanish. It's called Ready to Advance and Listos y Adelante. And we have a pleasure to have with us today Dr. Vicki Gibson, our author, who is also a Texan. And we're excited that she still is a practitioner. She actually has a school that's up and running at Texas A&M University in College Station. It's called the Collaborative Learning Center. And I hope that you're able to visit her school after you purchase Ready to Advance to see her in action with the children. So let's take a peek at Ready to Advance, a comprehensive solution that really does meet the needs of the children that are in your classroom right now. And we're excited to also share with you that we are 100% aligned to the pre-K guidelines and all 10 of the domains, as well as the alignment to the other areas that you see, and even making sure students are ready for kindergarten. But to begin, I want to introduce you to one of my favorite resources, and it is the Classroom Management book. Wish I'd had it when I was teaching because it's a step-by-step guide to help me organize my classroom, to set up routines so that children know that they are ready to learn and in place to learn. So that's exciting. But we also have classroom management holding hands with social emotional learning. So over the course of the year, you're going to see a complete integration using the pre-K guidelines that say we need some different read alouds every single day. 3, in fact. So we have social emotional lap books in English and Spanish that help children actually relate to themselves and to others. And we have phenomenal videos as well, created by Uno, Dos, Tres, Andres. And I'll share one of these with you because they created songs and videos just for Benchmark.
It's time to get in line. I want to be first. I run to the front, but it's someone else's turn.
How many children have done that in your classroom? How many children are looking at, I need to be able to relate to others. I need to be able to self-regulate. So even though I'm thinking about a phenomenal resource like a social emotional lap book, one of my favorites is Finding Oliver. Oliver's lost his dog. The community needs to help. So he can see himself in the text when you have a child that's reading it. But they also need to know that, oh, let me look out the window and see how others are relating to the text. So you have beautiful songs, but we also have a very well organized teacher's resource system or teacher's guides. It covers 10 units, each unit being 3 weeks long with an additional week of instruction. And always, always, every resource in English is also in Spanish. So let me just quickly just take you through celebrations and winter. It's unit 5, which starts with whole group instruction with math and science. Then we move through teacher-led and other centers as far as a work table and a small group table. But in the transition activity, students are more engaged. We're reinforcing what they're learning in a really fun activity. So we also like to let you know that we have 10 different trade books in English and in Spanish. But our trade books are special because we have lessons that go actually talking about what I need to teach in this lesson. So I don't have to figure out when I get this trade book, and it's written specifically for Ready to Advance and Listos y Adelante. And you're going to see authentic text. You're not going to see translations, transadaptations in our Spanish. You're going to see trade books that help with read alouds. But we also have big books to engage students, science, social studies, and literary big books, still tied to that theme. And even lap books. Students need more attention for social emotional learning and math and high frequency word lap books. So far I've talked about trade books, lap books, and our big books. In the lesson itself, I'm using that big book in a whole group environment. I want to tie in English learner strategies and have everything tied to my pre-K guidelines. But when I'm teaching the lesson with the read aloud, I have vocabulary lessons, phonemic awareness lessons, phonological awareness lessons, and fun transition activities. But from one big book, look at how many domains are covered. And those in red are specific to the pre-K guidelines for daily instruction. But we do more than just the minimal. We want to get teachers engaged in the lesson So we want students to really interact with that. So we have sound simple cards and picture cards and work mats and letter cards. But this is one of my favorites, the e-pocket chart, to get teachers to have students learn their letters, time to pictures, have them type to words. Everything that's print is digital, and parents and children will have access to this resource at home as well as the teacher. So true resources to really engage children and get them excited about learning. And in small group, we also have resources to get little books and little hands, and we even have an ebook that reads the book to the child. So as a
What do
teacher,
you see? I see balloons.
I'll have that ebook, I'll have it print, I'll have it digitally, and then I'll also have lessons that are specific to whether a 3-year-old needs a lesson or a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old. So we make sure that we have the differentiation tied in with emergent reading big books and teaching students to draw every letter, every numeral, and every shape with the 5 pre-writing strokes. But as a teacher, I also want to make sure that I have centers. I don't want to have to create my own centers. So we have centers set up, 6 different centers for you to use. But the last piece I want to reference is assessment, making sure that you know how the children are doing with observational assessments for comprehensive monitoring for every unit, and professional development. And professional development is important because we offer it in person, we offer it virtually, and we also offer it online in an environment wherever you see fit. We're there to help you. So as I close, I ask you to please look at Ready to Advance, Listo hacia adelante, and depth. So thank you, and let me see what questions you might have. And please feel free to unmute. We can have a conversation, or if there's something in the chat, that would be great. What PD is included with the adoption package? Well, one of my favorite PD persons is standing right in the camera, Dr. Vicki Gibson. Dr. Gibson, you want to talk a little bit about PD for us, please?
Yes, we have professional development videos that we have pre-recorded in actual classrooms that will be accessible through an online library and Benchmark's website. And then you're welcome to come to the Collaborative Learning Center in College Station, Texas. It's affiliated with Texas A&M. We actually have an adult training facility on site that you can see 4 classrooms at once, and we'll be modeling best practices. And then we also have wonderful consultants like Fiona that will actually come on site. I can come on site. We're always available, and we have 24-hour support via digital resources through Benchmark. So you've got constant teacher support, but we also included it in the program. Every major area has its own guidebook, like writing, assessment, classroom management. It's available also to you so that you have something, and it has full of pictures and examples for you. And inside of every one of our books is additional teacher support that you can have your paraprofessional use so that you don't have to plan a lesson for them. And none of those activities inside of every book is included in the lesson plan. So it's more opportunities to extend learning.
Thank you, Vicki, for that. Let's see what other questions. Do we auto roster with Clever? We work very well with Clever. We work well with Schoology, and there are a lot of people that are smarter than me that do that. And Josh, I don't know if you want to elaborate on how we work with Clever and talk about what we do, please.
Sure, yeah, we do have a partnership with Clever so that you can auto roster from your Clever dashboard everything that you subscribe to. That connects with Clever. Benchmark will be a tile right there. We also do have LTI certification, so that has us working with Canvas, with Schoology, with all of the major platforms. And we work with your tech team and set up the rostering system that works for you. We're very compatible and adaptable in that way.
And Josh, since you're there, if you want to just share with them that one other piece that's available digitally from the website. So that way, if you have additional questions or comments, you could go directly there. Let's see.
Absolutely. So it is benchmarkrta.com/Texas. As soon as I'm done showing you, I'll put this in the chat. But this is a microsite that we've set up just for you as you're evaluating programs. Here along the top are some of the top links where you can learn more about the program with the brochure, a video, see the components, all the different packaging options, the professional development options, and then sort of a deeper dive into the math and the phonological awareness. We can see Vicki in action here in her center. And then if you have any questions, we have a way to contact your local sales rep via the contact button here. So clicking on that, these are by region or by county in some cases, and just contacting your rep is as easy as clicking the email button or giving the rep a phone call. So we are available and ready to answer your questions.
Thank you, Josh. And that Seesaw platform, yes, we've had teachers all over the country that have said, we want to use it with Seesaw, and they do that, and it just works seamlessly so that adult in the home can see exactly what's going on, and that teacher can record, that student can record, so definitely yes. And Susan, I'm going to ask you to unmute and talk a little bit more about our professional development brochure.
Okay, so Josh, I think you can go to that professional development. You can show where it is online, where they can access it. But in the professional, with the professional brochure, you'll be able to see a variety of options that are open to you. However, all of our professional development, we work closely with the district with what their needs are, what they see that they want to focus on, and sit down to make a plan about the best way to use your time for PD. Much of it's already available 24/7, but we also, as Shauna said, we will be there remotely or in person as the circumstances change for us all to be together in one room.
Thank you, Susan. And we got a question earlier about the resources and how we actually are teaching our letters. And in Spanish, I want you to know that we use the syllable method where we teach las vocales primero y después las letras MP. So we're teaching words like mama, papa. And then in English, we start with those sounds that students are going to use most often. So Susan, since you're still unmuted, you want to talk a little bit about phonemic awareness, please. And so you just muted yourself, Susan.
As we look at how we're going to introduce, we're always moving to those more complexity sounds and letters. And our philosophy as we begin, we'll start with the sounds and we'll go in that order as we introduce letters, always using those things that are more simple and continuous sounds as students move up. And that's going to be reflected as we do everything, as we build in phonological awareness. We're going to look at the whole word, and then we look at the syllables, and as we and look at alliteration as we move to the phoneme focus there. And same with math. We'll start off with concrete things, or we'll be using blocks versus moving then to a pictorial representation. So always moving, and we have it it's very planned, it's very purposeful as we move through instruction in this program.
I'd like to
Thank you, Susan.
And Shauna, that when we're talking about how we introduce information, we follow the science of reading and what the evidence says about best practices. But the beauty about this program is the first 2 or 3 weeks, the teachers have plenty of opportunity to actually teach classroom management routines without having to worry about jumping straight into academics. I know I always wanted that as a teacher. I still need to get my class set before I jump into academics. So be sure you look at that when you look at the program.
Thank you, Dr. Gibson. And I also want to make reference to the idea that we actually teach American Sign Language to children, because a lot of the times the children's first language is nonverbal, and we teach them these signs. We want them to sit. We want them to look. So we have wonderful signs, and Vicki teaches those in her school as well. Any other questions? Please feel free once again to unmute. There are 24 of you out there.
There was a question earlier about our assessments and their alignment. Of course, they're aligned with both the infant and toddler guidelines and the pre-K guidelines. And we have a monthly progress monitoring checklist that teachers can complete from their observations in working with children in both the whole and small group. And if you complete each of these monthly observations, it has a Likert scale very similar to the circle or the CLI checklist. And if you complete all of those, then you will have checked off each of the pre-K guidelines across the year so that your end of the year big assessment will not take near as much time for you.
Last time we also had a question about the take-home books, the little student consumables.
Yes, teachers in the last session were so excited that they were going to get one of these per unit for each of their children for the life of the adoption, all consumable. So I will have my own library. I'm 4, I'm 5. I get my own library of books. So when I go home, mom knows that, guess what? I can pull some sentences together. Here we're having children learn about celebrations, winter season, counting. So it's not a workbook. It's an activity book that they engage and learning with math and literacy and science and social studies activities. So 1 per unit every year for the life of the adoption, included with Ready to Advance and Listo hacia adelante. Thank you, Kathy.
Oh, that's a great idea, because that's a great summary of what you've been doing in your classroom, so that it encourages the children to go home and discuss with their caregivers and parents exactly what they've been doing at school. And it lets the parents and caregivers also monitor the progress of their child along with the assessment or the unit checklist.
So we have about 3 more minutes, I guess.
We could talk about the unique differences of RTA and the rest of the programs that are available. Every book was written, all of the big books, lap books, every book was written to specifically go along with the vocabulary and the skills of each unit. Therefore, the children have a lot more repeated exposures, and you deepen comprehension and learning so that you build stronger foundational skills. And that's not usually what I'm seeing in the other competitors' programs.
One of my favorite differentiators, though, Vicki, will always be the emergent writing. Those 5 strokes that teachers are able to have with students to learn every letter, every numeral, and every shape. I taught that to my 4-year-old niece, and she's in love. Her favorite, of course, is up and around, because she can make the snowman. She loves to do that.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest activities that actually integrates everything: literacy, math, science because of color, shapes because of math, and you're developing body posture and grip, which is now a kindergarten requirement that the children use the same orientation and alignment. And so we do it through art activities and directed drawings. It's very fun, and the children love to see that they can see their own progress in that particular part of the program.
And it's built into the lesson. If I need an activity, I have 9 of those that teach children to color freely. I have another one that teaches finger painting. So 9 different activities. You could do a day or more, just a professional development on our emergent writing.
You can do the same thing with the assessment guide. You could do the same thing with the classroom management guide. That's the beauty. All of the professional development materials come with the program, and the leader of the district program can easily conduct on-site PD that is aligned with exactly what your teachers need in their classrooms.
Dr. Gibson, we're getting a question about, would it be easy to skip the handwriting portion of the lesson? And I want to be careful to think about emergent writing and not handwriting. You want to talk about that for a second?
Yes, if you look at the scope and sequence for the writing program and the RTA, we really begin with body posture, grip, and pressure, and it's all done in finger painting and torn paper activities to develop the correct grip, orientation, and alignment, meaning left to right and top to bottom. And then it's done through art. We don't take children straight to letter formation until a little bit later in the year when they demonstrate having the skill set. And so I think that the scope and sequences follows a learning progression for the stages of writing. And so I think if you look at that carefully, you'll see that it's aligned with the research, it's aligned with what children can do. I wrote this specifically because of the school that I have here and how we develop the foundational skills for getting ready to print, and then you print, and then writing is actually printing those letters to form words and convey an idea. So you've got to carry children along a continuum of how you develop these skills.
Thank you. Okay, I'm getting one last question about the books, and I wanted you to know the consumables are per student. The big books, the lab books and the trade books are for every teacher, no sharing. So you get your own set of resources, and you have Emergent Readers, 6 different copies of each of those 4 Emergent Readers. So 240 little books in little hands. So thank you all for coming. I know you're going to the next session, but we appreciate that you came. Please choose Ready to Advance and Listo hacia adelante. Gracias. And for your listening pleasure, just have a little music that comes from Ready to Advance.
It's time to get in line. I want to be first. I run to the front, but it's someone else's turn. I stop, I wait, I take some time to think. I let my friend go first. I can do the right thing. Yo estoy coloreando y quiero todo para mí. Lapicitos y crayones yo no quiero compartir. Yo paro, yo pienso y espero un momento. Comparto con mi amigo, yo hago lo correcto.
The monkey moves all around, moves all around, moves all around. The monkey moves all around, swinging tree to tree. This is how you make a big letter M. The monkey pulls straight down the line. He lifts and slants down to the right. Then he slants up and takes a rest so he can pull down one more time. He said, now that was fun.
I wrote it down and now I'm done. Run, run, esto es nuevo y diferente. Run, run, pero voy a ser valiente. Run, run, yo no tengo miedo, yo sí puedo. Monto en camión por primera vez. El camión es grande, todo esto es nuevo. Suena la bocina, pero no tengo miedo, yo sí puedo. I am on a train for the very first time. The engine starts, it speeds away. The whistle is loud, but I'm not scared, I am brave. Vroom, vroom, I'm trying something new. Vroom, vroom, I will get there soon. Vroom, vroom, I'm
Okay.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Benchmark's virtual room. We're so happy that you're joining us this afternoon. My name is Kyle Kuhn with Benchmark. I'm the Texas District Manager, and we have Dr. Vicki Gibson with us. She is the author of Ready to Advance, and Vicki is looking forward to answering your questions. We also have the Benchmark editorial team and our consultant team. We're going to begin with a brief overview of Ready to Advance. Shauna Williams is going to go through Ready to Advance, but we're really looking forward to answering your questions and partnering with you. So let me hand it over to Shauna. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kyle. I'm really excited to share with you this comprehensive solution in English and in Spanish, Ready to Advance and Listos y Adelante, to get our children school ready. But let me introduce you to our author, who not only created, but actually wrote every lesson in the program, Dr. Vicky Gibson, a fellow Texan, an expert in the field, a researcher, a writer of professional books, who went the extra mile to actually create the resources. But in the fall, she opened up the Collaborative Learning Center at Texas A&M University in College Station, and she is actually a practitioner. She's in the classroom with the children using lessons from Ready to Advance. So we're excited to have her with us today. And you're looking at a very comprehensive solution that uses all of the resources, provides high quality learning, and you can just make a check that we actually cover all 10 of those learning domains, as well as alignment to other resources that you're familiar with. And we want to start by thinking about, how do I get my classroom organized? How do I know what's happening in the classroom? So Vicki has created a classroom management book that every teacher will receive, so you can have orderly routines, orderly environment. And I really wish, and that was the writing, so I'm kind of losing it here, sorry. Classroom management, Shauna. So in this book, there are different activities that you can use to provide students to self-regulate, to have their behavior in order, so you can actually start teaching. One of my favorites that we have is we tie our social and emotional with classroom management. So you will also have social emotional lap books. So students can really see themselves reflected in the text, a mirror, and then see others. So we have windows and mirrors type of text. Those are in English and in Spanish. Every resource that I talk about is in both languages, but it's not translated and it's not trans-adaptational. Don't let anybody tell you that you need those books. We have authentic text, and we also want to get children engaged, and so we want them to be able to participate, to get along with others. So I want to share with you one of our social emotional songs that come digitally in Benchmark Universe that you'll have access to.
It's time to get in line. I want to be first. I run to the front, but it's someone else's turn. I stop, I wait, I take some time to think.
How many children can relate to this? How many teachers, how many of you had children? You've got to have them take their turn, be patient. So we have the songs embedded into the curriculum, but we want to talk about the organization. 10 units, 3 weeks each, and an extra week of instruction. So you really have 40 weeks of instruction that could actually take you through the summer if you needed to. But I want to just reference Unit 5, Celebrations and Winter. When we're teaching, we have whole group instruction for math or science or social studies. And then we move into our small group with a teaching table and center time, as well as a work table. But everything happens where the students are transitioning between the centers with activities to engage them, to reinforce it, and to make it very playful for them. But in addition to our social emotional books, we also have 10 trade books. So these trade books are some you've probably never seen because they were written for Ready to Advance and Listos y Adelante. So you'll have these coming with lesson plans. So jot that down. Our trade books come with lesson plans, but we also have big books. They're tied to the unit. We have science, social studies, and we have a literary big book, 3 of those for every unit. in English and in Spanish that were also built around Ready to Advance and Listos y Adelante. But I, as a teacher, also need some lap books. So we provide you with some for social emotional learning, like Don't Push Penny, a math book, high frequency word big book, lap books. So children see that I am using the books because teachers need these read alouds, and we provide the instruction on the books for whole group, first of all, with English learning strategies tied in there, and also with your guidelines written in the lessons themselves. But as a student, we want them to be able to learn. I'm going to teach, and I'm going to learn about details from the big book. I'm also going to look at different vocabulary. So with teachers teaching phonological awareness, as well as phoneme awareness and alliteration, and having children have conversations about the text. But we offer you these wonderful transition activities between the lessons to engage students. But look at how we are so interrelated, interconnected. So when you teach with one big book, look at all the skills and the strategies that you're pulling. And the ones you see in red, that is what we're referring to as daily instruction coming from the pre-K guidelines. So you have your whole group instruction, but you also want to make sure that you're connecting that sound to the letter, phonemic awareness and phonological awareness. So we have sound symbol cards and picture cards, work mats, letter cards, many, many resources that you could use in the classroom. But one of my favorites is our e-pocket chart. That e-pocket chart allows you to show the students pictures. They can create words and letters. And with everything being digital, that adult in the home can also log in and that child will have access to those specific resources. But from whole group, we also need small group. So at your teaching table, children will have small books for small hands. So we have emergent readers so we can let them interact with the text, let them explore the vocabulary. And you have 6 copies of each of those, plus story prompts and concept and retelling cards to really develop the structure and tie from abstract to concrete with manipulatives that go with the program, including word cards. And every book, ebook, is available online. So every big book is there, every emergent reader. And here's just a sample of one.
What do you see? I see balloons.
And the children can hear the book read to them. The parent can listen and log in and have access to the books just like the teachers. But what children also want are their own books. So we create a library for children. Every child gets a consumable book that goes home at the end of 3 weeks so that adult can see, oh, these are the foundational skills that you learned. You learned about different shapes and colors. We also did that for our science, our social studies, our math lessons. But in one specific small group lesson, I can address multiple learning styles. I can address my 3-year-olds by building foundations. I can go into my mainstream 4-year-olds and teach concepts and syllables. But if I need to extend it for 5-year-olds, I can also do that in a big book. But one of my favorites as well is our Emergent Writing Guide and big books that teach students the 5 pre-writing strokes for writing every letter, every numeral, and every shape. And then we could take their learning to center time. I know when I was a pre-K teacher, I needed to have center set up. So we give you 6 center ideas. And then as a teacher, you also want to know, where am I going with this? I need a screener. It's there. I need observational assessments. So for every single unit, we have 2 different types of screeners. So I can actually start my teaching, have my progress monitoring sheet in front of me, and I can see how my students are doing during small group and record that. But not to forget that parent, that adult in the home, connections like a take-home letter. We have activity books as well as that student consumable. But what makes life so grand for us is also embedded professional development that's very purposeful. We come to you when you want us to. We teach virtually. We have online support, and we even have distance learning activities for you to use with children while they're still at home in that environment. So I want you to call on our Texas team. Josh has put in the contact information, but I want you to right now think about, I'm going to choose Benchmark Ready to Advance and Listos y Adelante. Let me see what questions you might have.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Is all the curriculum digital?
Everything print is also online. Every single book, the classroom management, the big books, the lap books, every resource is print and digital, and you'll have access to that. And so will your children online.
Okay. So I can use it, like let's suppose if right now I'm doing Zoom. If I need a book, it'll be there. If I need a chart, it's gonna be there.
Everything you need is here, exactly. And I'm going to just stop sharing and let Josh come in and really talk about what those resources are that are available digitally. And while Josh is pulling up his screen, are the resources available in English and in Spanish? A resounding sí, 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 todos en español, todos en inglés, lo mismo, pero no es traducido. Es auténtico, authentic text in English and Spanish. That's what we have. And Josh, if you'll put that website in there as well, or Kathy, or one of you, if you'll put the website in there, please. Thank you.
Yep, I'll copy it. I'll paste it when I'm done sharing here because I don't know that I can get to the chat while I'm sharing. But this is benchmarkrta.com/Texas. And this is a microsite that we've set up for you to help you as you explore and review the program. Up here are some quick link buttons where you can get to the program overview brochure, watch the video, learn about the different program resources, the packaging options, the professional development that's available with the program, as well as some other documents. And I saw in the chat someone mentioned about how to explore the full program online. If you click into components and then click here to access samples, this will give you a URL with a username and password where you can go and explore the product. And this is what it looks like. You'll see all the videos here. Your full teacher resource systems are here so that you can plan and also teach completely remotely if you need to, without having to lug the print home or use it on Zoom. All of the books are also ebooks with full read aloud audio that tracks the print for listening as well. We'll also come back to the microsite here to show you if you have any further questions. So if you leave here and you remember a question that you forgot to ask, or if just something comes up afterwards, you could always contact us. You can find your local rep by clicking the contact button here, and then look for your county or your region, and then just click the email button, or pick up your phone and dial the number here. And these are all your reps and your the whole Texas team for you. Okay, again, I'll post this in the chat right now.
Thank you, Josh.
You got it.
So what other questions? Feel free to unmute, talk to us. We're here. Vicki, did you want to add anything to what I've said so far while they're thinking of their questions?
Well, I can think of some of the questions that we constantly get asked. One is, why do we present the lowercase letter instead of the uppercase letter first on our sound symbol cards? And that's straight out of the research that emergent readers, young readers, need to attach the sound to the lowercase letter because they come in contact when they're reading words predominantly with the lowercase letters. And then why do we have all the word cards? Because they're not flashcards, but those word cards and the opportunity to use the e-pocket chart allows us to demonstrate concepts that spoken language can be in print, and talk about sentence structure and grammar, which is included in the Texas kindergarten guidelines. So we immediately have children being introduced to how do you form a sentence? How do you form a word? But first we're counting the words in a sentence. That's phonological awareness. And then we break the words into syllables. Again, phonological awareness. But again, teaching the children to listen and speak and then become aware of how sounds are used in our spoken language, and then how we use sounds to actually decode a word either into syllables or for phonemic awareness to talk about beginning and ending sounds, and then the vowel sounds.
I have a question. And the pocket, the e-pocket chart, could that be used like you say, on the onset rhyme? Like I would create my own stuff. Can I use it, or it's only a specific purpose?
No, what's so phenomenal about that is it's wide open. What's
Okay.
great is I want to be able to look at a word. I could go into a specific word. If I want to look at a picture, I can go directly into that picture. So I'll have the ability to use this e-pocket chart in a lot of different ways. And let's say I get it exactly the way that I want it, then I can share my e-pocket chart with other teachers that are out there. So there's so many different ways to use that e-pocket chart.
And it's interactive. We've got smart boards in our classrooms. This is Vicki again, and our children can drag their own pictures up there, and they can create picture sentences, and then we can map words to their sentence or that describe something about a picture that they have started, and they feel like an author then.
Exactly. Thank you.
Hello, Shauna. This is Angela Cala from Aldine. How are you?
Hi, I know you.
And I have a particular question for us. So how is this program aligned with like our kindergarten program, like from pre-K to K, specifically like for Spanish, since that's kind of what I'm trying to find.
You want me to answer?
That would be awesome. Yes.
This is Vicki again, the author. When I designed the framework with which to create all these materials, I took the pre-K guidelines both for English and in Spanish and the kindergarten outcomes, because pre-K is developing the foundational skills for the performance in kindergarten and the assessments at the end of kindergarten. And I can assure you, I worked with Karen Hess, who is the queen of learning progressions in this country, and she's also a consulting author on this program. We sat at my kitchen table for days and made sure those alignments were perfectly aligned.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we're looking at about 3 more minutes.
I think that, Shauna, we should talk about the differentiation options that are in this program. There is more involved. That is my specialty, and that is in the way that we design the program to make it so easy for teachers to know where to begin. So when you're looking at a small group lesson here and you see that build foundations, you start from the left and work to the right, just like we read. So if you have younger children or children that have skills that need to be developed, then you would start at the left. And then if you have a group that, let's say, already has those skills, then you move to the middle of the page and you can move upward. And then the right side of the page, that's where we have enrichment and extended learning. And a lot of that right side of that page actually moves into some of the kindergarten TEKS. And so you have a complete option, and it's in small group and it's in whole group. And there's multiple activities, as you see here, in one day. So the teacher constantly has options to individualize this program to the needs of the students in their classrooms.
Dr. Gibson, talk a little bit about the emergent writing for a minute. That seemed to be a really good one that people have loved.
I developed this program actually when I was a special education teacher, because so many students had not been taught the foundational skills for writing, which is body posture, pressure, and grip, and the right orientation, which is left to right, and top to bottom, which is alignment. And both of those are now required at the end of kindergarten, that a child has to form letters in the correct alignment and orientation. So we've developed a way to teach it through art materials, and this is built into the instruction of the program. So the children finger paint, shaving cream, they learn to make these 5 strokes. And anyone that makes these 5 strokes can draw any geometric shape, any lower or uppercase letter. And so it prepares them for writing without asking a young child to draw or print a letter without instruction.
Great, great, great. Thank you. We also got the question last time about that student take-home book, and we did put the question in the chat, but there's so many ways to use this text. I'm going to pick on you again, Dr. Gibson. You want to talk a little bit about the consumable book?
Well, again, like everything else, Benchmark was wonderful to allow us to design every component, especially for this program. So what's happening in the classroom is extended into the resources and extended to home. And so this book actually has a page of every big idea that you taught during the unit, during the month. And we send this home at the end of the month. It's not a workbook intended for school. It's a workbook for the child to go home and demonstrate to the parent what they can do. And she's showing a directed drawing. So the child has had opportunities to have instruction, feedback, and guided practice. And now they can go home and demonstrate in that book what it is that they've done at school, and they can have a dialogue about it. So it's a great homeschool connection.
Thank you.
And it comes with the entire length of the adoption. It's not a consumable you have to purchase again.
I'm going to turn you into a sales rep soon, Dr. Gibson.
I was a teacher, and my school didn't always buy things, and so it was important to me.
All right, that does wrap up the time for block 3. So in the chat, I posted the link if you need the Zoom links to go to a different room, and that next block 4, will pick up at 3:15.
Thank you.
I have another question. Are there also available resources for parents, like digital resources from home that they can access?
Shauna, can I answer that one?
Yes.
Too? We also offer 9 suggestions in the Take Home Homeschool Connections book. We have 9 activities that we suggest that parents can do in case they have parent night, that helps them understand what is happening in classrooms and why we're doing it and how it will impact not only the students' learning, but the students' preparation for school readiness. We also have the same videos that I talked about that'll be available in a video library that I believe that the parents also have access to if they want to see, am I doing this correctly? Well, they can look at a model. They're very short. They're just like 3 to 5 minutes.
And the children will have access to the e-reader, so that adult in that home can let that child listen to that book, engage in the text. They can write in the text online. So if you're still teaching virtually, you won't stop at all. You'll just continue with everything. Print is digital, and the parent will even get newsletters. They'll get a calendar every month with activities that that child is working on, and 2 take-home books that the teacher could download or the parent could print out as well. So thank you for your question.
On that calendar are a lot of language development, a lot. It's not things that you can't do or you have to buy resources for.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to just play a little bit more music while we wait for the next group.
It's time to get in line. I want to be first. I run to the front, but it's someone else's turn. I stop, I wait, I take some time to think. I let my friend go first. I can do the right thing. Yo estoy coloreando y quiero todo para mí. Lapicitos y crayones, yo no quiero compartir. Yo paro, yo pienso, yo espero un momento. Comparto con mi amigo, yo hago lo correcto.
The monkey moves all around, moves all around, moves all around. The monkey moves all around, swinging tree to tree. This is how you make a big letter M. The monkey pulls straight down the line. He lifts and slants down to the right. Then he slants up and takes a rest so he can pull down one more time. He said, now that was fun.
I wrote big M and now I'm done. Esto es nuevo y diferente. Run, run, pero voy a ser valiente. Run, run, yo no tengo miedo, yo sí puedo. Monto en camión.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Benchmark's virtual room. We're so happy that you're with us this afternoon. My name is Kyle Kuhn. I'm the Texas manager with Benchmark. And with us, we have Dr. Vicki Gibson. She is the author of Ready to Advance. We also have Benchmark's editorial team, professional development team, and consultant team, all here to answer your questions. We're going to begin with a quick overview of Ready to Advance. And Shauna Williams, one of our Texas consultants, is going to take us through the program. Shauna?
Thank you so much, Kyle. I want you to see this brand new comprehensive program that meets 100% of the pre-K guidelines. And it's a parallel program in English as well as in Spanish, Ready to Advance and Listos y Adelante, to help children get school ready. But let me introduce you to our author, who not only created, but actually wrote every lesson of the program. And typically that's not what an author does, but she is recognized expert in early learning. She's a national speaker and author of several professional books. But then what else does she do? She takes the time to teach the program. She's opened a school this past fall at Texas A&M University at the Collaborative Learning Center in College Station. And you can visit her, watch her teach the lessons, get some professional development once you purchase Ready to Advance and Listos y Adelante, because she wants us to really see it in action. This comprehensive solution provides you with everything you need, once again, in English and in Spanish, and is aligned to the guideline, meeting them 100%, but also with other alignment. So you could see that we're getting children ready for kindergarten. But one thing that Dr. Gibson has done is she has written a classroom management book, which I really would have killed for when I was a pre-K teacher. It shows you how to organize your classroom, how to create a place for children to learn. There are so many different activities that help you set up a job chart or a helper chart to really get students ready and paced in an organized environment that gets their behavior regulated and ready to learn. But we want to know, think about it, social emotional learning and classroom management, they kind of hold hands. So we give you lap books in English and Spanish that connect the themes that children are learning to develop their social emotional behavior. But we also do it in a fun way with songs like Don't Push Penny or social emotional learning, but we do those using the Uno, Dos, Tres song. So let me let you listen to one that probably will apply to some of your students.
It's time to get in line. I want to be first. I run to the front, but it's someone else's turn.
Think about those children. How many of you have had children? You had to teach that. So we provide songs for every unit that helps with that. And we do that with our 10 themes. Each of these themes is one unit that lasts for 3 weeks. And we also give you 1 week of extra instruction in case you want to take that to summer school. You have 40 weeks of instruction. But I want to begin by just showing you one unit. Unit 5, Celebrations in Winter. As a teacher, I'll have my whole group instruction to teach my math, science, social studies, but I also will have a teaching table when we move to small group. That is where differentiation happens. Students are then going into centers, but they are also going to a work table with another adult. So we have them move through whole group, small group, and we have transition activities that reinforce what they've been learning in a very fun way. But also I want trade books. So you get trade books in English and in Spanish that were written specifically for Benchmark, Ready to Advance, and Listos y Adelante. And when you start looking at our Spanish, they are not translated. They are not transadapted. We have authentic text from authors that created the resources for us. Same for our big books, all about a unit like Celebrations and Winter. Big books, two literary big books or 2 informational big books like science and social studies, and 1 literary big book per unit, as well as lap books that help teach social emotional learning, math, and even high frequency words. But if I'm going into the lesson, I have a whole group lesson and I have an English learner focus for support for students that need additional help in learning if that English is not their first language. And all of your domains are listed, all of the guidelines directly in your teacher's resource system. And when you're working on the lessons, we're going to take that read aloud. We're going to look at print concepts, details, and visuals, move into vocabulary, phonological awareness, going into syllables, because we're talking about social studies. So all the vocabulary is about social studies, phoneme awareness, as well as phonological awareness with alliteration, sound symbol relationships, having the student, that child, have a conversation with you as well as each other about the lesson, as well as beautiful transition activities for them to get the wiggles out as they move from station to station. In a book like Special Celebrations, look at how many domains we're covering in just one book. A 10 to 15 minute lesson will really engage the students in all of these different domains. And the ones you see in red, those are identified for daily instruction with the pre-K guidelines. So when you are working in whole group instruction, we also want to have that student learn about sounds and symbols. So we have letter cards, picture cards, word cards, a work map for them to use, as well as one of my personal favorites, e-pocket chart. Every teacher will receive an e-pocket chart online in Benchmark Universe, and that adult in the home can also log in to teach the students words. You can drag up pictures and letters, and they really do get engaged in this pocket chart, and it's in English and it's in Spanish. But small group, well, that has to be purposeful. It has to be planned. So everything is very much connected. So for small group instruction, we want to put little books and little hands. So these are called our Emergent Readers, still on that topic, written specifically for Ready to Advance and Listos y Adelante. But when we want to get our children really involved, we need manipulatives. So they're story props. They're manipulatives that they can tie from concrete to abstract to really build in and make the connection. The word of the day is interconnections, going from science to social studies to actually having every book print and digital, and we even have it in an e-reader format like this.
What do you see? I see balloons.
So this e-reader, students can log in, that adult in the home can log in, you access the e-reader, it's fun, it's engaging, but what really makes a difference is what is my child going to be able to have in their hands? So we have student consumable books, one for every unit. They use that for 3 weeks in class with the teacher, and then that book goes home, and you will receive these books for the life of the adoption, 8 years. So your children are building in libraries of text. And so for small group instruction, we also want to differentiate for children who might be 3 to build foundation, teach concepts and skills for a 4-year-old, or even have extension lessons for students to use. But we don't label the lesson grade age 3, 4, 5. You use the ones that are appropriate for the children in your classroom. We also want to teach emergent writing, directed drawing, and math. So we have big books to teach that in English and in Spanish, using 5 pre-writing strokes to use and learn every letter, every numeral, and every shape with these strokes. But I was a teacher who always wanted to know, what are my centers? I can't do this by myself. I need some center ideas. So we give you 6 different center activities. But the last piece that's really pulling it together are the assessments to get you ready, to screen the children, to have observational assessments, formal assessments, no matter the age of the child. We have those embedded. And then for that parent, not only does that student get that take-home book, but they also get calendars. They get a family letter, and the child has 2 take-home books for every single part of every unit. But nothing happens unless you have strong professional development. So it's very purposeful. We want to make sure that we provide 24/7 online support in Benchmark Universe. Our team comes out for professional development, and we also have it done virtually in a remote setting. So when you start thinking about the resources, what's purposeful, what's planned, the connectedness, every domain being there, call on our sales reps. Josh is going to let you see how you can communicate with the sales reps. But before I leave you, I want to ask you to choose. Make the best choice. Make it ready to advance. Make it listos y adelante so that you are working with children and making a difference. So let me ask if there are any questions while Josh shares his screen and we start thinking about ready to advance and how we can make a difference.
Sure. So I will show you the microsite that we've set up for you guys to explore as you're learning more about Ready to Advance and Listos y Adelante. And I know Shauna's reading some of the questions there, so we'll hit those after just this brief overview of this, which is the microsite benchmarkrta.com/Texas. I'll put this link in the chat for you. So this site we've set up with various links so you can look through the program overview brochure, watch a video, learn about all of the different resources for both Benchmark Advance and Listos y Adelante, as well as the package options, because we do have specific packages for dual language. If you're a 90-10 model, a 50-50 model, we have that set up as well as all the different professional development that's offered. So you can click on all of these links and access all of these different areas, as well as feel free to explore the site in its entirety. You can also access the full program digitally if you go to Components and then click on the orange button here that says click here to access samples. This will take you to a page that will give you a URL, a username, and a password. And so just click on that URL, put the username and password in, and you'll be taken to Benchmark Universe, which is our completely digital platform. You'll have access to both the English and the Spanish program, completely equitable in terms of the resources in print and digital. So all of the books here are ebooks that read to you, track print as they read, so they're synchronized. Your teacher guides are all here, so you can plan digitally, you can plan remotely, you can teach digitally through Zoom. All of your videos, some of the videos that Shauna just shared, you'll see the ebooks here, and it's all very simple. You just filter by your unit, and you have all the resources you need for that unit here, nicely organized for you. Back to the microsite. If I click back home here for a second, if you have questions that come up or want to get in touch with your reps, click on the contact button here. This will take you to our Texas sales team. Just find your region or your county and click the email button, and that will bring up an email that you can type directly to the rep, or feel free to call. Everyone's phone number is here as well. So again, I'll drop this link right in as we get to the questions.
And Josh, while you're there, they want to know about linking to Schoology, linking to Clever. So if you want to just talk about that, please, before you leave.
Sure. So as part of the onboarding process, we will work with your tech lead or whoever is in charge of the adoption and getting that part settled to come up with the best solution for you. We're compatible with Clever, we're LTI, Schoology, Canvas, all of those different, and I think we're LTI, I think they call it 1.3, so you can actually, it's a more integrated approach to it actually not only links to the resources, but also automatically onboard you. It's all very technical, but just to say that we have a lot of different options, including Clever, LTI, Schoology, Canvas, all of the major ones we do cover. And we'll even do nightly syncs with your rosters or student information system. So all those options are available.
Great, great, great. So thank you. And Vicki, we also had another question about the CLI. If you want to address that in the Learning Circle again, please. And you're on mute.
And there we go. Can you hear me? When I designed this program, just like CLI and any other program, hopefully, we created a framework by using the infant and toddler Texas guidelines for children that are 36 months, as well as the pre-K guidelines for 48 to 60 months. And so, yes, and they use a checklist very similar. It's broken down into different kind of sections. If you look at our checklists, they are actually classroom checklists that you send home at the end of the unit that are curriculum-based measurements, which is the strongest and most reliable measure there is, because our checklists actually let you have the opportunity to evaluate a specific skill that was taught. All of the checklist items in each month are perfectly aligned with the guidelines that children are supposed to know and be able to do at the end of the year. So yes, it aligns all of that. It aligns with Circle, but it also aligns with all the Texas pre-K guidelines in a learning progression across the year.
Great, great, great. So I'm going to piggyback on that. And what we're going to do is to get you a login to Benchmark Universe, our digital platform, so you could see the entire scope and sequence. And that way you could see the letter or how the letters are taught. And we even have what we call a little quick skills checklist. So you could see which letters are taught in which order. And they're different in English and in Spanish. In Spanish, primero vamos a enseñar las vocales, la A, I, O, U. Y después, las letras, la P, la M. So right away, students are forming letters and words and sounds. And then for our English part, we start with our M and our A. And so, Dr. Gibson, you want to talk a little bit more about phonemic awareness and how we teach our letters?
Well, we specifically in the program begin the first 3 weeks, which I like, with classroom management. And then when we get into instruction, we begin with the continuous sounds, which means it's the sound that's easiest for a child to make, like and ah, and the sounds that don't stop. And so we put those together and we manipulate those sounds. It's more phonological in the beginning, as it should be. And as they learn more sounds, we then move toward more phonemic awareness, which is the sound associated or represented by a letter. And so we don't introduce letter of a week always, because I don't think children can deeply comprehend, produce, and get to a level of proficiency that quickly. So I think that we may introduce the letter somewhat slower, but our children deeply know it and can use the information before we pile on more information.
Awesome, awesome. So thank you for that. Let me ask anyone else if you want to unmute and see if we have any other questions on the table. Josh has put in the username and password for you to access all of the digital resources for Benchmark Universe. So you could see all the ebooks, the e-pocket chart, everything that I've been showing you that's print is also online.
I think,
Shauna, I see a question up here about what supports are provided for centers for students. I think it was while you were presenting. I don't know if we hit that one. Are play-based centers encouraged? Are ideas provided for that?
Want me to answer that?
So, yes, ma'am, please.
There are 6 center suggestions every week. On the back of each tab for each week, there's 6 center suggestions. And since I own a school, I know the importance of not creating centers that we can't afford. And so I use things that were in the program and typically in classrooms when I mention those centers. There's quite a bit of information in the program, and including in the classroom management book, there's a back section that gives you at least another probably 50 ideas for learning centers. And you ask about play-based. I honestly believe that learning centers are a cognitive or a brain rest for some children, and the emphasis on some of the learning centers is for social emotional development and self-regulation and being responsible for cleaning up the materials and using them appropriately. So the centers vary in their purpose, but we include something for each of those. So we may have a social emotional center, we may have a mathematics and a science. We often combined a lot of that. Social studies centers is aligned with themes, but lots of choices for the teachers. And we also include all of the materials that would be required for those listed so that you can gather them quickly. We put our centers in plastic containers so that it's easily for the children can then set the center up themselves when they go to that area.
Great, great, great. So thank you, Vicki. I also want to point out that, yes, we do have high frequency words in Spanish, and they are located in the program guide. And that's also on the Ready to Advance website that Josh has put into the chat. But Vicki, I want you to talk for a minute about a native or Spanish bilingual expert writing and collaborating with the program. And Susan, feel free to jump in as well.
Well, Elsa Cadenas Hagen and I talked about the development of language and the transfer of a native language, Spanish to English, and the importance of how we could design instruction for that. And that's been incorporated into this program. The advantage of having the e-pocket chart is, and the flashcards in print as well, is children can manipulate those words to create a sentence that you may create with them on an e-pocket chart to show the grammar in English and the grammar in Spanish. And so all of the materials and manipulatives are there with the instructional support to the teacher. So I find the program super helpful in teachers that often are working with children that speak languages other than English as their native language. In our school right now, we have 9 different languages already.
Thank you, Vicki. They're going off to other sessions. We do have a couple of other questions. I did answer the one about the scope and sequence, and so it's found online as well as in the program guide, so you could see how the order of the letters. We also had one, Vicki, about the alignment to the Kinder Teaks and a vertical alignment.
With which we write the program and create the materials. We not only took the Texas pre-K guidelines outcomes, but we aligned those to the kindergarten TEKS end of the year outcomes. And if you look at the extend section in the lesson plans, you will see that many of those activities actually represent outcomes in the Texas TEKS guidelines for kindergarten. So it's fully aligned. And it actually includes a lot of them.
And we do have one of our consultants as well, Sylvia Dorta Ducuderes, that works with the ELPS and the linguistic support in meeting students with different levels of English acquisition. So we're going to ask you to check on our website. And Josh, if you want to let them know a little bit more about where they will be able to find that, that will be helpful, as well as the cognate cards and making sure that they see that transfer of the language and how we do support different levels if someone wants to add that. Susan?
Right.
And you went back to mute, Susan.
I don't know if you want to pull up your screen or not and go to our EL support. The ELPs are definitely in there. You're going to see them also in the whole group, where we'll pull out that language support, and it'll have an EL next to it with looks at both language structure and vocabulary. And then Josh, are you able to pull up that support that we have for the ELs that's additional online? There's some support that's in there that's really PD focusing on different kinds of groups based on language acquisition levels, as well as things that you would do with oral language development. And in addition to that, we have lesson support. So if we could just quickly see that is where you'll actually find it in the whole group lesson. And then this book to the side, it says routines and strategies. This is supportive of more EL support, so that this is a sort of an idea of what you get for PD, because we have some built-in embedded PD here. But in addition to that, if you'll go to the next, we'll now see things that are very specific to lessons that will go in, so that you'll have opportunities to look at sentence frames, looking at between English and Spanish, also cognates. And as we get into looking at question words, you know, so that we can stop and talk about when we ask the question, who is, what does who refer to? So this is support that's built in to the actual, that would be supported for your lessons and thinking prompts. So all of this is inside this routines and strategies, as well as inside of your instructional lessons in the teacher resource guide.
And so, Vicki, there's also a question about kindergarten readiness, if you want to address that, please.
I prefer school readiness because I feel like in pre-K guidelines and pre-K instruction, we're actually preparing our students with foundational skills that will work for them for always. But yes, this program definitely will take a child to the level. In fact, most of our children, at least half of the class, could probably pass most of the kindergarten TEKS because of the gradual release method and the scope and sequence and following learning progressions in this program. And I might mention here too that a lot of the books you're noticing are separate guides for professional development and teacher support. And in the review, I'm not sure all of those guides were reviewed. So be sure you look at those books because we put the teacher support and administrative support for both assessment and observations in separate books so that we would not have teacher editions or the teacher resource system loaded with a lot of language. That way you can get to your lesson, get it taught, observe the children's response, and differentiate instruction effectively.
Thank you so much, Vicki. So right now, Kyle, we are ready to begin.
Yes, we are. Yes, we want to welcome our new guests to our final Zoom meeting. It's been quite the day. We know it's been a long day for you. We do appreciate you coming by our room or staying in our room. With us today, we have Dr. Vicki Gibson. Of course, she is the author of Ready to Advance. We also have members of the Benchmark editorial team, consultant team, and professional development team here to answer your questions. First, we're going to begin with Shauna. She's going to take us through a quick overview of RTA, and then, of course, we will answer your questions. So let me hand it over to Shauna.
Thank you so much, Kyle. So let's think about a comprehensive solution. That's what we need for pre-K. You'll have it in English, you'll have it in Spanish. Ready to Advance and Listos y Adelante, an equitable parallel program written by Dr. Vicki Gibson. And typically an author only just consults, but Dr. Gibson wrote every single lesson. She's also an author of professional books, a researcher, and then she went and created that resource, Ready to Advance, for us. But look what else she's doing. She's actually a practitioner. She has opened up the Texas A&M University Collaborative Learning Center in College Station, where you could go out and observe her, get some professional development opportunities. So we have a wonderful opportunity for you to see Ready to Advance being taught whenever you want to go out there and see it. So we're excited to have Dr. Gibson also here on the panel. And this is very new, comprehensive, giving children a high quality readiness program for school. So we want you to know that we are reflecting ourselves in the alignment 100% of the pre-K guidelines covering all 10 of the domains, as well as other alignments and getting children ready for kindergarten. But to get you thinking, and how do I set up my classroom? Because I know as a teacher, it was always challenging. So Dr. Gibson has created a book called Classroom Management. That's a step-by-step guide to get you organized to create a place for children. And tying in classroom management, we hold hands with social emotional learning because we need our children to settle down. We need them to self-regulate. We need them to control their behavior. So you're going to actually have additional resources like social emotional lab books to really engage the children. And everything in print is also online digitally in Benchmark Universe. But to really get the students excited, we also have social emotional songs written by Uno, Dos, Tres, Andres, just for Benchmark.
It's time to get in line. I want to be first. I run to the front, but it's someone else's turn.
Now, can you relate to that? Yes. Can your children relate to that? So we want to give some songs. We want them to be able to learn how to work with others. And we want them to be able to get organized and tie in that social emotional while you're actually managing the classroom and they're helping to manage themselves. And to do that, we provide the instruction in 10 units, each unit being 3 weeks in length, and even having a 4th unit for extra instruction. So you really have 40 weeks of instruction where you could take this all the way through summer school if need be. And we're going to focus today on Unit 5, Celebrations and Winter. And in this unit, in every unit, there's teacher-led instruction for math or science, literacy, or social emotional. But at a teaching table for small group, we also want to reinforce strategies we taught in whole group. Students use those same type of skills we taught during center time and play time, but also having an adult-led small group table to reinforce the skills. But to transition, we have wonderful activities to keep them engaged in a really playful way. 10 trade books. We have those in English and we have those in Spanish. They might be by authors you may not recognize because they were written specifically for Ready to Advance and Listos y Adelante. But what's different is they also have a lesson plan, a guide that shows you what to do with the trade books. And when you start looking at our Spanish books, just know that they're authentic. There aren't any translations. There's not anything that's trans-adapted. Authentic literature, everything written for Benchmark, whether it's our big books with our 2 literary and informational books connected to the topic, that theme, that tie, as well as lap books for social, emotional, math, and high frequency words to support the instruction in every single unit. And when you look at whole group instruction, we want to cover and support our English learners. So you'll see specific strategies in there for that second language learner, as well as your guidelines directly put into that teacher's resource system. For whole group instruction, that interconnectedness I talked about starts with the read aloud. We look at print details and we look at visuals. We tie vocabulary from the social studies unit to engage in that language structure. And we always have our phonological awareness and phoneme awareness. We want students to work with alliteration using fun games and songs and tie it into having collaborative conversations. And then between every activity, there's a transition time for them to get the wiggles out. And so in one book, like Special Celebrations, we're teaching read aloud, phonological awareness, we're teaching social studies, technology with our ebooks, because every one of the big books, every reader for the child is also online in Benchmark Universe that will read that book to the child. And we even have songs and games for students to actually interact and have fun. And when you start looking at all of what you see in red, that is that daily instruction focus that the pre-K guidelines call for, but we do more than what's in red. We really have an interconnected curriculum to support students. And we have picture cards and sound symbol cards to also keep that child engaged. Manipulatives like work mats and letter cards and high frequency word cards. But we want that child to be able to interact with letters and words and know that it meets and ties into a sentence. So we have e-pocket charts, one of my all-time favorites. Students will have access to this at home, so that adult in the home can work with the child to tie in and use pictures and words. And teachers, if you're teaching virtually, it's a phenomenal resource to interact with the language. It's also available in Spanish. So if you are a dual language or bilingual teacher, you'll have your words in Spanish and your letters in Spanish as well. For our small group, that's definitely led by the teacher. We also offer little books for little hands in the way of an emergent reader that ties to that same theme, celebrations in winter, but we want to develop the concepts. And so as a child, I need some props. So we have different props for social emotional time, manipulatives, so that we can go from abstract to concrete, and high frequency words. Let me just share with you one of the e-readers that I just referenced called At a Birthday Party.
What do you see? I see balloons.
So that book can be read to the child. You can see the words being highlighted, that one-to-one word correspondence, so the child can see what I'm listening to is also in writing. And then one of my other favorites is the idea that I, as a child, get my own take-home consumable book. That book goes home with the child at the end of every 3 weeks. So they're building their own library. And it's all tied to the skills and strategies that were taught during those 3 weeks. But we also want to be able to relate to our 3-year-olds to build foundation, to teach concepts and skills to children that may be 4 and on level. And we want to even extend the learning for our 5-year-olds. So we want to make sure that every child's need is being addressed. But one of my all-time favorites is Emergent Writing, to help with that student learning to write every letter, every numeral, and every shape, using these 5 pre-writing strokes to get them engaged in the writing. But center time is also key. So students will be able to choose amongst the centers, but as a teacher, it was always hard for me to come up with which centers. So Vicki has included 6 different center choices, like science or social studies or fine arts or blocks, that all connect to the theme. But the last piece I want to reference is I want to know how my children are doing. So we have an assessment guide so you can monitor students' progress. You could screen them based on their ages. You could pull out the unit that you're teaching, and during small group, check off to monitor how well they're doing. And then let that adult know, that parent know, by sending home take-home calendars and take-home books and family letters. But what makes it come together is professional development, a partnership with Vicki and her team providing professional development, with benchmark consultant team coming out, doing lessons and working with teachers through professional development, but also remotely with virtual learning lessons. So you're going to see, when you pull up our resources, purposeful plan resources to get students ready. And I hope that you call on our team of educational consultants to support you, to set up presentations, to get you ready to look at this in more depth. But I want to just close and say thank you and ask you to make your best choice. Choose Ready to Advance and Listos y Adelante as your solution for your pre-kindergarten students. Thank you. And I want to take some questions. While I'm taking questions, I want you to be able to go to the resources digitally. So I'm going to turn it over to Josh, so that Josh can take us to our microsite. And let's see the questions.
Thank you, Shauna. I haven't seen any questions come through yet, but feel free to type in the chat or to chime in. I'm going to take you through our website, benchmarkrta.com/Texas. This is just a little microsite to help you learn more about the product, get some of your questions answered and the like. And I'll also show you how you can get into the full digital platform to see all of the digital resources. So this is the microsite. It's benchmarkrta.com/Texas. I'll put that in the chat when I come back from sharing. And up here, I just want to point you to the buttons that we've added. These are links directly to our program overview brochure, so you can read more about the product, watch a video about it. It'll be similar to what you just saw with Shauna's presentation. You can see all of the different resources that we offer in both English and Spanish. This is a completely equitable English and Spanish program. And to that end, we do have different packaging options. So of course you could purchase both in their entirety, but we know some of you do a 90-10 model or 50-50 model. So we have special packages for you there. So you can learn more about that through the packaging options. And then we also offer comprehensive and really next generation professional development with this product. So you can learn about all the different types. As we saw, we can do virtual, we can do in person, we do 24/7 videos and trainings that are available on the platform for you. So really have you completely, we have ongoing present or specific professional development around classroom management and different topics and things like that. So we have you covered there. And then deeper dive into some questions you might have about phonological awareness or math and science, or our routines that we have embedded into the program, like the very powerful counting on routine that you can watch a video from Vicki's center where you see the power of that in action. If you come over to the components page here, there's an orange button that says click here to access samples. That's how you get to the full digital program on our Benchmark Universe platform. So this is the link you click. When you get there, you'll see both the English and the Spanish product, fully digital. You can see that your teacher's guides are here. So if you need to plan and you don't have the book around, or you're teaching virtually, these are accessible, as well as all the videos Shauna shared, as well as even more than just what Shauna shared. We have a ton of videos that support not only the unit topic, but the social emotional learning, the letters, and even colors and shapes, and learning all of that. Every book, including the big books, the lap books, they're all audio, fully interactive with tools. So you can use that as a teacher when you're teaching virtually, or in front of the class in a whiteboard, or anything like that, with full audio that tracks the print as it goes. So all of these are here. These are also all assignable to students. So you just drag it over into your assignments and students can use that. So perfect for our virtual world that we live in these days. Back to our microsite, the last place I want to make sure you know about is the contact button. So if you click on contact, this shows you your Texas sales team. If you think of a question, or if you don't get a question answered because we run out of time, feel free to reach out to your local sales rep. Just find your region number or your county, click the email button, or use the phone number to give them a call. So
Thank you, Josh.
Sure.
So we are still here for you. So please let us know what questions you might have, or just comments. What did you think about what you've seen? Is there something that you could use right away? Any comments or questions so far?
Shauna, I know one of the big questions has been about dual language in Spanish.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about how we teach our English and how we teach our Spanish. They are not the same scope and sequence. When you start teaching the Spanish, we start with the vowels, las vocales. Entonces la A, E, I, O, U, y después las letras, la M, la P. So we can start making words right away. Papá, mamá. And then that style will continue with the instruction in a syllable method, which is how we learn Spanish. And the English, Dr. Gibson, you want to talk about the scope and sequence for the English, please?
Actually, we tried to align as much as we could in terms of the introduction of the letter English and Spanish. So both children were actually seeing the lowercase m and learning the sounds for either language. When I developed the framework for this program, I used the help of Elsa Cardenas-Hagen and Karen Hess to design the learning progressions for language development. And so I think you'll see that it's fully aligned. We begin with the continuous sounds, the sounds that are easiest for children to hear and be able to reproduce. There is no research that designates there's one way to introduce letters, but certainly the research says start with the easiest sounds and then move to the more complicated sounds across the year, which is what RTA does.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gibson. And I see the question about working with interactive whiteboards, and that answer is yes. We also have, for every ebook, we have interactive digital tools. Students will have access online, and so will teachers, to a pen, an eraser, a highlighter. You could also upload YouTube videos, Vimeo TeacherTube videos. You could also insert PDFs into the ebook. So it is very, very interactive as an ebook, but yes, it will work with your interactive whiteboard. So thank you, Ms. Larkin, for your question.
And then Shauna, this is Vicki again. I'd like to encourage the listeners to be sure when you go online to look at the individual teacher support books that we have, because we created one for classroom management, one for assessment, one for writing, to eliminate or to reduce some of the text that would be in the teacher edition or the teacher resource system. And so some of those books may not have got a full review during the TEA review. The program is comprehensive, not only in its instruction, but its support for the teachers. And I wrote those specifically for my staff here. And it's been helpful for them to have a resource to go back to. And to the instructional flip charts, if you have those, they're specific step-by-step methodology support for what does best practices look like in classrooms. And it's in both English and in Spanish.
We also got the question earlier about the student book. So every student, once again, will have their very own book to build their own classroom library, one book for every single unit. So over the year, they'll have 10 of these, but these are not workbooks. These are interactive books that the children will use for 3 weeks, and then they go home. Dr. Gibson, you want to talk a little bit more about these?
When we designed each of those books, each page represents a specific skill that we were focusing on during the unit. It actually goes home at the end of the unit, and teachers use it 2 ways. Some of them actually use it in class. Some of them actually let the child take it home, and then they demonstrate for their caregivers and parents what they've been learning at school. So it's a wonderful homeschool connection. And it's important to me that Benchmark will provide these at no extra cost for the length of the adoption, because I know at my school, we don't have additional resources for all of the consumables every year.
Thank you. Well, I see it's 4 o'clock. Leslie, is there anything else that we need to do?
No, I think that's it. Wow, I look like I'm in a jail cell. The sun has moved. Sorry. I think that's it. Thank y'all so much. And I hope everybody had a great time at the different sessions. And y'all reach out if you have any questions.
All right. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.